Hello, what you need to grow community. Today's episode is a little bit different. I'm going to pre-introduce our guest because I really wanted to dive right in to my conversation with Dr. Ivan Misner. Now, Dr. Ivan Misner is the founder and chief visionary officer of BNI, the world's largest business networking organization. Founded in 1985, the organization now has over 11,400 chapters in 76 countries throughout every populated continent of the world. Last year alone, BNI generated over 17 million referrals for their members, resulting in $27.1 billion worth of business for their members. Dr. Misner's PhD is from the University of Southern California, and he is a New York Times best-selling author who has written 32 books, including his newest one, Networking is a Marathon, Not a Sprint. He's also a regular columnist for Entrepreneur.com and has been a university professor at several universities. He's called the father of modern networking by both Forbes and CNN. And there's so many more things about him. You can go look him up on your own. But I do want to share with you that in his spare time, he's also an amateur magician and a black belt in karate. Now here's the episode.
Welcome to What You Need to Grow, the podcast where entrepreneurs discover the inspiration and perspective shifts that fuel both personal and business growth. Each week, certified professional coach Jennie Bellinger brings you powerful conversations with thought leaders, subject matter experts, and innovative company leaders who share their stories of growth and the tools that made it possible. From fresh insights that expand your vision to resources you can explore on your own journey, every episode is designed to help you grow your knowledge, grow your vision, and grow your business. Now, here's your host, Jennie Bellinger.
Welcome to another episode of What You Need to Grow podcast. I'm your host, Jennie Bellinger, and I have with me today Dr. Ivan Misner. Now, I've already done the introduction, so you guys, because I wanted to dive right in with Ivan to have this talk about how networking can really influence not just your personal growth or not just your business growth, but also your personal growth. So, Ivan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. And I love the name of your podcast, What You Need to Grow, because it's a spin on what you need to know and growing. I love it. I have a good friend who wrote a book. She's written many books, Sam Horn.
Okay.
Sam wrote a book called Tung Fu.
Okay.
and so she loves the spin on words. Another book she wrote is Someday is Not a Day of the Week.
Oh.
And catchphrases like that, I think, are really powerful. So I love the name of your podcast.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm kind of biased and excited about it myself. So there's a lot of people who probably know who you are and know you as the founder of BNI. And I know many of the people who will be listening to this episode are probably very familiar with BNI. But those who aren't, how did you get into becoming known as the father of modern networking and founder of BNI?
Well, look, I'd like to tell you I had a vision of an international organization. We now have 11,400 groups in more than 75 countries around the world. But the truth is I needed some referrals for my consulting practice, and I wanted to help my friends. And so I had gone to a lot of networking groups. Some of them were just mercenary. And I felt like, when I left, everyone was trying to sell to me. I felt like I'd been slimed. I needed to go home and get a shower. And then I went to these other groups that were totally social. It's happy hour and hors d'oeuvres. Nobody was doing business. I didn't like either of those. And I got most all of my business. I was a management consultant. I got almost all my business through speaking engagements and referrals. Mm-hmm. And so I needed to have a referral process, but I didn't like those two. So I formed a group, not intending to have thousands, more than 10,000, a group that would have a focus on business, but not be transactional, not just be transactional, and that would be relational, but not totally social. Mm. And that the glue that would hold it together is this philosophy of giver's gain, this idea that if I help you, you'll help me, we'll all do better as a result of it. And it just took off. people just kept coming up to me and saying, hey, would you help me open up a chapter? And would you help me open up a chapter? Because we only take one person per professional classification. And after a year, I had 20 groups and I wasn't even trying.
Wow.
And that's when it hit me that I had struck a chord in the business community that I didn't expect. I mean, I was young. I was 28 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was 28 when I started BNI. So I figured most people had this figured out, this referral thing. And what I discovered is almost nobody had it figured out.
No.
And so they just gravitated to the structure, the system, the relationships that are created to the program, and it grew like crazy. Here's an interesting statistic for your listeners that they might find interesting.
Yeah.
In the past 12 months, we passed over 17 million referrals worldwide. 17 million. We generated for our members over 26 billion with a B, over 26 billion US dollars in what we call thank you for closed business. That's the amount of business for, if you're not a member, that's the amount of business that the members reported that they received in our online system. So that's a member input, not our data, member input. Now here's the amazing part that blows my mind. If you take a look at the United Nations estimates of GDP, gross domestic product.
Yes.
United Nations, look at their list. There are more than 100 countries in the world that have a lower GDP than what BNI generated for its members just last year.
Wow.
That blows my mind. And if you would have said to me 40 plus years ago, this little organization that you're starting, and I was working out of my house.
Right.
This little organization that you're starting will someday do more business than 100 countries, the GDP of 100 countries, individually 100 countries in the world. I would have said you're crazy. No, but we are.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's been phenomenal. And, I've been a member. This is not a secret to any of my, close listeners. I've been a member for almost 15 years now, and it has absolutely more than paid for itself in that time from that thank you for closed business. I mean, the return on investment is phenomenal when you do the system.
Yes,
because that's the key.
But you got to do the system.
Yeah.
It's like people, they join, they don't do the system, and they can't figure out why they're not getting referrals. It's like, if you join a gym and you don't go to the gym and work out, follow the procedures of the gym, you're not gonna lose weight. You're not gonna get stronger. You're not gonna accomplish the things you want to accomplish. So, a gym membership and a BNI membership actually have some similarities. You got to come and do the work. But come on, how cool is it? How hard is it? It's better than cold calling, right? I mean,
yeah.
You're meeting people who become your friends.
Yeah.
And when they're friends, they want to help you, and you build your business with a group of friends. I think BNI is a beacon of hope in a sea of fear. We live in a crazy world. I think your personal network, is a beacon of hope in a sea of fear. These are people that are there to help you succeed.
Yeah. And I would say that this is something that, speaks for itself, just because in the time that I've been a member, I've had the opportunity to switch businesses a couple of times. And what's been really interesting is each time I've made that switch, I've had BNI members who I had a relationship with go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, we can support that switch. They weren't major shifts, but it was enough that people went, oh yeah. No, that's good. I can refer to that. So in all of this time now, so BNI's been around for 40 years.
40 years, yeah. Next January will be our 41st year.
Wow. Yeah. So, by the time this comes out, yeah, it'll be approaching its 41st year, which is super cool. In those 40 years, what would you say has been the biggest learning curve that you've seen BNI members experience, between 1985 and 2025?
Well, I think probably the biggest is learning how to network, because we don't teach it in colleges and universities anywhere in the world. I wrote the very first book on networking that's ever been published, to my knowledge. I never saw a book on networking before mine. And so people just, I think most people, they use networking as a face-to-face cold calling opportunity. Hi, Jennie, my name's Ivan, let's do business. And they, go right into sales mode as opposed to relationship building mode. And so I think that's the one thing that has been consistent for 40 plus years. I think BNI members get it. They understand it's about relationships. But when you have hundreds of millions of business people and you only have hundreds of thousands of BNI members, most business people don't get it. They don't understand.
Yeah. So as you've been a part of the growth of this organization, where have you seen the stumbling blocks happen in the growth? Because I know BNI has had a very steady growth over the 40 years, but I'm sure at some point there have been some stumbling blocks that have popped up that maybe you didn't see coming, that looking back now, oh, that was a doozy.
Yeah, we had a lot of stumbling blocks, and I'm happy to share a couple of them with you. I talk about one of them in a book I wrote called The Third Paradigm, where I tell an entire story about one of the biggest mistakes I ever made. If you get the book, The Third Paradigm, I don't say it's me. It's a business owner by the name of Richard. Richard happens to be my middle name, but it's my story, and it's the BNI Connect story. A huge stumbling block. We've had many, but here's the most amazing thing. BNI has over 40 years of consecutive growth, year on year on year. Mm-hmm. No year had a decline in membership in 40 plus years. And we're on track to have a 41st year of growth. I think what happens is when the economy is good, there's a lot of competition, mm-hmm. and people are looking for ways to deal with their competition, so they join BNI. When the economy is bad, they're struggling, they don't know what to do, so they're looking for ways to keep their business alive, and so they join BNI. And so we have been blessed to be in a business that works during strong economies, during poor economies, and even during COVID. We grew during COVID as membership. We grew, and I can tell you the reason we grew was that we pivoted. Like right now, we pivoted to online. And if you've been a member 15 years, you know that in a matter of weeks, country by country, we flipped at that. When COVID started, we had 9,800 chapters, mm-hmm. Meeting weekly in person.
Right.
We flipped 9,800 chapters, country by country, in just a matter of weeks to online. And it not only saved BNI, I would argue it saved 100,000, 200,000 BNI members, because so many people were distraught and had no business because they couldn't get out of their homes. And BNI was a great way to do business during a really difficult time. And when I say, your network is a beacon of hope in a sea of fear, that phrase came out of COVID.
Oh, wow.
I came up with that phrase out of COVID because it was a beacon of hope to many people.
Yeah. And you already mentioned that you wrote a book, and now you've mentioned a couple of books. You are up to 32. 32 now. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And so I'm not going to ask you which is your favorite, because I know that's probably like asking which is
that's like saying which is your favorite child, right?
Right.
I asked my kids once, I said, I have 3 children. I said, which one do you think is my favorite? Mm-hmm. And what I loved was they all pointed at a different kid. And I'm like, yes, I'm doing my job.
Good. I regularly tell both my children, I'm like, you're my favorite. You're my favorite. You're my favorite. Both of them. And they hear me say it in front of the other
one
all the time. You're my favorite, because they're the only one who's just like them at that age with that name. Yeah. You're my favorite. But going back to business growth and personal growth, how have you continued your personal growth during the building of this massive organization now? Yeah. How has that played into the growth, do you think? How has it played into?
Yeah, well, I've certainly worked on my own personal growth. You were about to ask what are my favorite books?
Oh, yes.
Let me tell you at least one. I've done a couple of self-help books. My favorite self-help book is Who's in Your Room?
Oh, That's a good
And
one.
it's all about the people you surround yourself with. And an incredibly powerful book. I think it's one of the most powerful books I've written. And it really doesn't have anything directly to do with networking, but networking is about who you surround yourself with. So in a way, it is about networking, although it doesn't talk about networking directly. And my core business networking book is Networking Like a Pro. Networking Like a Pro. And as you know, I just came out with a book called Networking's a Marathon, Not a Sprint. So there's a few books for you.
Absolutely.
You asked about my personal development. I've been a member of an organization called the Transformational Leadership Council for almost 20 years. It goes by TLC. It was founded by Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul and Success Principles. And Jack has become a very, very good friend. And I see Jack twice a year at the TLC meetings. You may or may not know this, but Jack actually retired in June.
Oh,
Yeah, he retired. But I stay in touch with Jack. He's an amazing man. One of the things I love about Jack is his ego does not enter the room before he does. He's very humble.
I would agree with that. I was lucky enough to get to interview him actually during COVID
Uh-huh.
because I reached out to him and I took Jack's own advice from the Success Principles, which is ask.
Yeah,
And so I reached out and said, "Hey, would you like to be on my
I do.
podcast?" And he said, "Sure." And
Boom.
you're absolutely right. He was a phenomenal interview on that show, and he is part of the personal growth for me that I have found has not only built me personally, but also in my business. It has shown up
Yeah.
very well for that. So, being part of that, talking about the Transformational Leaders Council for that particular group, that's a mastermind style group.
Yes. It's a mastermind group. We have presenters. We get together twice a year for almost 4 days.
Oh, wow.
I've been on the board for almost 13, 14 years, so I've been pretty active. But, a lot of speakers on transformational topics.
Mhm.
And so I've learned a lot. I think I'm cancer free today in a sense because of what I learned in TLC about health and about the kind of food to eat and whatnot. I wrote Who's in Your Room with somebody who I met in TLC.
Okay.
So one of my co-authors was a member of the Transformational Leadership Council. So I've learned many things. And I think it's very important for business people to be constantly, sharpening their axe. One of our core values is lifelong learning in BNI.
Yeah.
And I think lifelong learning is very important. And that's what TLC has been for me, is my way of finding new speakers and hearing new ideas. Gotten a lot of great ideas
Yeah.
from TLC.
And are those things that then impacted BNI and BNI members? What are some of the things that you can, off the top of your head, that maybe came from that personal growth that showed up in BNI?
The vision statement for the organization
Oh,
directly came from a conversation I had with a TLC member, changing the way the world does business, which is our vision statement. And a vision statement should be a big, hairy, audacious goal that may be impossible to achieve, but that's our vision statement, is changing the way the world does business. And it was a deep conversation with one of the TLC members, Martin Root, who helped guide me to that realization that we really are changing the way people do business.
absolutely. I mean, sometimes when I'm talking to new members, I'll tell the story of when I joined BNI. The chapter that I was invited to go to was here in my hometown, and I had never heard of it before. So I thought for sure I was in the only chapter in St. Louis. And this was, keep in mind, this was 2011. So
Yeah.
BNI had been in St. Louis area for a little over 15 years at that point. And, but I didn't know any better. And
Right.
so I tell people, you have no idea what's out there, because then all of a sudden all these members started visiting from other chapters, like the next town over and the next town over. And I went, wait,
Yeah.
there's more of these?
Yeah. Yeah, we have 347,000 members around the world.
Wow.
And it's always so funny because, people do go to a chapter, they don't realize it's global. I remember a member called me up and he said, he was from Singapore, and he said, "Hey, I was talking to a visitor we had today, and he's from the United States. And he said, wow, and he was visiting a chapter in Singapore. And he said, wow, this is amazing. This is absolutely amazing, but I don't think this would ever work in the United States. The guy was like, it started in the United States. This is a US based company. And the visitor was like, seriously, this is in the US? Yeah. And so he ended up, coming back to the US and joining a chapter. So yeah, people don't automatically know that it's global.
Yeah, no, and it's been really fun getting to watch as, as we get the email saying, oh, hey, we have a new country that we just added,
Yeah.
getting to see that growth has been really fun over the years. So I reached out to some of my BNI members and asked them for some questions that I might ask you. So if it's okay, I'd like to ask you a couple questions.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. All right. So this question is from Stacy Goodwin.
Okay.
And she says, I would be curious if Ivan has a magic, and she has quotes around magic, formula for the amount of network to be effective. Sometimes balancing network with actually working can be a challenge. We need to network to grow, but then we also have to have time to do the work that comes from networking.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did a study that was part of a book I wrote. The title is kind of strange, but I'll explain it. The book is called Business Networking and Sex, Not What You Think.
Okay.
And it's about the difference between men and women and how they network.
Yeah.
And we surveyed 12,000 people. So 12,000 people. And one of the questions we asked was, how much time do you spend networking? And by the way, we found 91.4% of the respondents said that networking had played a role in their success. When had you ever seen 12,000? 91% of 12,000 people ever agree to anything ever.
Right.
But they said networking had played a role. And it wasn't just BNI members that took the survey. It was open to the public.
Okay.
So we found that the average amount of time that people spent networking was 6.3 hours a week.
Okay.
And so my answer to your question is, if you would like to be average, then spend 6.3 hours a week networking. If you want to be above average, we found the sweet spot to be closer to 8 hours. That people that spend 8 hours a week networking. Now, networking is working. Work is part of the title. And it's not called net sit or net eat, it's called network. And so, it's not only, it's about going to meetings. It could be a chamber function, a service club, a BNI group. It could be doing one-to-ones. A one-to-one is part of that 8 hours. It could be writing out thank you cards for people that had given you referrals. That's part of your networking. You're sending or sending emails thanking people for setting something up for them. That's all part of their networking efforts. And we found that there was a direct and dramatic linear correlation between the amount of time people spent networking and the amount of business that they generated from their networking. So the people who spent more time networking generated significantly more business through their networking efforts. So people who were spending 8 hours a week were getting 70% of their business or more from their networking efforts.
Yeah, I mean, I have found that to be true for myself. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that I've spent a lot of time and effort building these relationships, and being a chapter director as well for a number of chapters in my region. I have an extra layer of network there as well, and at this point, I get over 90% of my business from referral. And
that's the way to build a business. And it takes time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It takes time, but if you go into it with that understanding, and the understanding that it's about being visible in the community, creating credibility in the community, and then once you've done that, then you have a profitable relationship with people in the community. I call it the VCP process. And if you understand that going into it, you can do very well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you. I think that's a great answer there for you, Stacy. So hope you took notes on it. The next question is from Michael Babcock with Babcock Insurance and Financial. And he says, what is Ivan's favorite networking hack? Something that most people don't do, but when they do it, it makes it more effective.
So I meet a lot of people. I'd like to tell you that I'm brilliant at remembering names. I'm not. I'm not.
Yeah.
And luckily with BNI and most networking events, you wear a badge, so you've got the name, and that's helpful. Um, I try to never say nice to meet you to anyone
Mm,
unless I really know them.
right.
Well, if I know them, I wouldn't say nice to meet you,
Right.
but I'd say, hey, good to see you again. But if I'm meeting somebody and I meet thousands of people,
Yeah.
and most business people at least meet dozens, if not hundreds, over the course of a year, I say, nice to see you.
Mm.
And and then people will let on, it's good to see you again too. And we met at the last BNI conference that I came to, or the last time you were in town. And I'm like, yeah, what was my presentation? What did I do on that presentation? And they'll tell me we'll have a dialogue then. Or if I say nice to see you, and they say it's really nice to meet you, I've been wanting to meet you, then okay, I've never met this person. I call it a hack because I found that when I said to people, nice to meet you, and we had met before, they would be they'd be offended or hurt. And it's like I remember one vividly. I said, nice to meet you. And they go, well, we met before. I said, well, give me some context. When did we meet? Well, you were in town 7 years ago, and we had about 500 people at the event, and you did a really good presentation. It's like, okay, 7 years, 500 people,
Right.
7 years. How many talks have I done over the last 7 years? I didn't say this to her,
Right.
but so I realized I got to say something else,
Yeah.
because to say nice to meet you, just I don't want to offend people. I don't want to put them off. And so the hack for me was nice to see you. Good to see you. And then, if they've met me, they'll say so. And then I get context.
Yeah.
And if they haven't, then we're off to the races.
Yeah, exactly. And I imagine that most people that you meet are, pretty happy and a good build for you as well in terms of good relationship building from those conversations. So, yeah.
Yeah. Can I give you a don't? A
Oh,
don't do?
yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, don't do it, especially if you're networking up. If you're networking with somebody who you think is really successful, never, ever, ever say, do you remember me? Never say that, because when you say that, you're just putting them on the spot, and context really helps.
Yeah.
Like if somebody came up to me and said, you may not remember me. You were here 7 years ago. You did a presentation on such and such. I said, okay, context. And then I might, in fact, remember them. But
Right.
without any kind of context, when somebody says, "Do you remember me?" that just puts me on the spot, and I don't want people to feel like I don't care, or I don't remember. Oftentimes, once they start talking to me, I do in fact remember. So a don't do is never, especially when you're networking up, never say, "Do you remember me?" As a matter of fact, when I have been blessed to be able to spend a fair amount of time on Necker Island with Richard Branson,
Hmm.
and I have his contact information, and it's rare that I reach out to him, but every time I reach out to him, I include a photograph of him and I together. Okay, and I'll say, "Hey, Richard, good to talk to you again. Last time we met was on Necker on such and such a date. Here's a photo. Here's my question or comment or whatever." And of course he writes back and he says, "Oh, of course, Ivan, I remember you." And maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But I made it so easy for him to feel comfortable that he responds.
Yeah. And I think that's a great tip. Yeah, because networking up is a great way to build your business, and you don't
Yep.
want to burn a bridge on the way up.
Nope.
So,
Nope. And the fastest way to burn a bridge, here's another don't if you're networking up. The fastest way is to sell to them.
mm,
Don't sell to them. Everybody says, well, I may not ever have another chance. Well, the problem is if you're networking up, everybody is selling to them.
yeah,
So do you really want to be like everybody?
not so much.
Instead, what you want to do is be somebody different. And how is that? Find a way to help them.
Hmm.
Okay, so I've been to Necker on a number of occasions. The first time I went there, I really wanted to do a video with Richard. It would go on my blog.
Yeah.
Right? But I didn't want to be that guy to go, hey, Richard, would you do a video with me? Put it on my blog. Right? I didn't want to be that guy. So I did a little research. I love Google. I did some research. What's Branson most interested in right now? And it was about the B team, the business team. The business can be noble. Business can make a difference in local communities. And so when I saw him, I was like, hey, Richard, tell me about the B team. I've been reading about it, and it sounds amazing. Tell me about it. And he lit up. He lit up. And he was like, oh, I love this concept. It's really good. I think, you can be a local business. You can really make a difference in local communities. And I said the magic words, how can I help you get that out there? Those are their words. How can I help you? Not trying to sell him anything. How can I help you? He says, well, you run that really large networking organization. Can you get it out to your networking organization? I said, yeah, absolutely. Would you like to do a video that we send out to, I can make sure that it goes out to the members. He's like, yeah, you do a video. I'm like, yeah, I do a video. Let's do it. And so he was like, yes. And then I waited a couple of days.
Right.
And he came to me and he said, hey, are we going to do that video? Because I really would like to get the B team out there. I'm like, absolutely. Let's do it this afternoon. And we did it. If you go to my blog, ivanmisner.com, and you do a search on Richard Branson, you'll find I've done several videos with him on different topics. Every time I see him, if I have time and he's interested, I try to do something on a topic he's interested in. That's the way to make a positive impression. Mm-hmm. You don't have to sell to somebody. Instead, make a positive impression by finding a way to help them.
Oh, I think that works very, very well. Absolutely. So, with all of that, we also have your book that just released, Networking is a Marathon, Not a Sprint. Yeah. For that book, I mean, I find it interesting. It was your 32nd book because that goes to show, that you're part of the marathon, right? It wasn't one of your first books. What made you want to write this book now?
Well, I had a couple of experiences that I thought were really important, and my co-authors had a lot of content that I had not written about. People say I don't have anything to share. I mean, what I'm talking about has been shared in the world. Yeah, well, not your story. Your variation of the content is important, and so my co-authors had variations of things that I had talked about and stories that were really relevant that might resonate with somebody. And so I generally do now books with co-authors. My story that really sat with me was a person that was just so busy networking that they weren't spending any time. Their network was a mile wide, but an inch deep. Mm. And your network needs to be a mile wide and in some places really deep, meaning you need to spend time with people. You need to do one-to-ones. You really need to get to know them. They need to get to know you. And he was so busy running around, meeting people, going to events, which is good, but you can overdo it. Yeah. He was using networking. He was sprinting. And I even had a conversation with him because I liked this guy. He was really good. And I'm like, I don't want to say his name, it's okay to slow down, ratchet it back a little bit. You're doing so much and it's very impressive. And the way you're doing it is good. But slow down, don't burn yourself out. Think of this in the long run. And I said to him, this is a marathon and you're sprinting right now. And so take some breaths, go deeper with some of these people, have longer conversations, get to know them better. And he's like, no, I need to get out there. I need to meet people. I'm like, okay. And sure enough, a year later, he burned himself out and, he ended up closing down his business. He just got so burned out.
Yeah.
He had problems with his relationship. I mean, all kinds of things happened to the poor guy. I really liked him, but, and so I had that story, the sprinter versus the marathon runner. And my co-authors had other messages. So the book is actually done like mile. Each mile is part of the marathon.
Yeah. I just got started reading it. I haven't made all the way through it yet. I'm I think I'm in mile one right
Mile
now.
one. Well,
Uh,
do me a favor and do a review on Amazon. They
Absolutely.
really make a difference, the reviews.
Oh, absolutely. We'll do that. I was even
If you like it. If you don't like it, don't bother.
I do the same thing. I tell people the same thing with my podcast. I'm like, give me a
Yeah.
5-star review. If it's not 5 stars, let's have a conversation so I can figure out how to make it a 5-star
Fair enough. Fair enough.
podcast, right? So no, I've even considered offering to many of the members that I'm connected with doing it book club style, so that way we can bring in some of the newer members who, are in the sprint mindset of I've got to get
Right.
traction, I got to get traction, and then for those of us who've been in for a while to say, hey, no, we're proof positive that this is a marathon.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. And you got to take a breath and you got to take a break.
yeah,
There's time where you got to have some water, have a break, don't, you just can't keep pushing at the same speed for so many miles.
right. And it's also important to review who you are having conversations with,
Right.
and you know, you mentioned earlier about BNI Connect for those who are members, we have this opportunity to be able to pull reports and take a look and see like how would you recommend a BNI member use BNI Connect or any of the reports from Connect to help them figure out how to more effectively leverage their membership?
Well, I mean, one of the things that I think is great about BNI Connect, and for those who aren't in BNI, imagine LinkedIn, but just for BNI. So
Mm.
you have to be a BNI member in order to use BNI Connect. It goes deeper in the sense that we track referrals, we track attendance, we track a lot of other things. But from a networking perspective, I think the way to use an online platform like BNI Connect is to reach out to other chapters and say, hey, I'd like to visit your chapter. And if you want to do business globally, do it online. 30% of our organization meets, uh, 15% meets totally online, 15% as a hybrid, meeting once a month in person and the rest of the month online. So you could visit chapters all over the world.
Mm.
I mean, 30% of 11,000 chapters, that's a lot of chapters.
Oh
And,
yeah.
and so you can visit chapters all over the world. And if you want to do business in those countries, meet people, make a connection, and then do a one-to-one with them via Zoom.
Mm.
I had a BNI member just this morning in a presentation that I did say, "Hey, I've emailed people on BNI Connect. They don't reply." I said, "That's a cold call. You're cold calling them. Yeah, it's an email, but you're cold emailing them. Go to the meeting. Go to an online meeting. Have a conversation. Talk to some of these people. Then reach out to them." And I said, your percentage of responses will go up dramatically if you actually go to those meetings. And that's a way you can use BNI Connect that's really powerful. Also, use BNI Connect for referrals, not just in your own community, but in other parts of the world. We have a BNI member in Malta whose mother lived in London, and her mother called her and said, "Hey, you're in this networking group, and I think there's groups in London. Do you have any way of finding out if there's a landscape person in London?" And the daughter says, "Yeah, I can find if there's a landscape person in London, I'll find them." She did. She referred her mother. The daughter's in Malta.
Yeah.
The mother's in London. And so she made an introduction to the landscape person. And then a few months later, the mother reaches out to the daughter and says, "Hey, that landscape person was perfect, worked out really well. I need a couple of the rooms of the house painted. Do you think you could find a painter in London, a house painter that could come in and paint part of my house?" And she said, "Yeah, I can do that." And so she found a painter. So even though you may do business locally,
Hmm.
you can get referrals globally.
Yeah.
Why one of the phrases that I came up with BNI Connect was local business global network. And you can be a local business, but you can have a global network, even if you operate only locally. And if you're operating globally, it's perfect.
Oh yeah, I can vouch for that. Being a podcaster, I've had the opportunity to be a part of the global power team, which is what it sounds like, a global
Yeah,
power team. It's 30 something different countries
right.
represented in a twice monthly meeting done
Excellent.
online. And it's fantastic. They're amazing, amazing humans that I get to network with from time to time. So, well, I wish I could keep you and continue talking to you, but I know that we both have other things on our schedule. So, Ivan, I want to thank you for being here for this brand new podcast of mine and being part of the launch. So, thank you so much for sharing about networking and how it grows and helps personal and business growth. Because, let me share one quick story with you about how.
And then, if you don't mind, I have a closing remark.
Oh, yes, please, absolutely. So BNI is one of those things, and networking in BNI is one of those interesting things that, of course, my business has shifted over the years. But one thing I did not predict was I actually ended up meeting my now fiance because of BNI. So I know this is not the first story you've heard about people finding love in BNI, but probably one of your more recent ones would be my guess.
There are a lot of BNI marriages. I was a BNI marriage. I was married 31 years. My wife passed away in 2020, but she was a president of a chapter, and I met her at a leadership team training. So we were married for 31 years. And Elizabeth, she passed away in 2020. I did get remarried about a year and a few months ago, which was a referral from Jack Canfield's business partner. So Patty Aubrey literally referred one of Jack's employees who I had never met. And we met by Zoom because she lived in Santa Barbara at the time. And so referrals work and networking works, not only for business, but also for relationships, although that's not why I created BNI.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I met my fiance. Two or three of my very best friends are people I met networking. It's been phenomenal because birds of a feather flock together. You tend to find each other through this. So, yeah. And so I'd like to offer this opportunity for you to share a closing remark with our What You Need to Grow community.
Yeah. So our principal core value in BNI is giver's gain. And to me, giver's gain is more than a phrase. It's a way of living one's life. It's a perspective to view and interact with the world. It's an attitude, not an expectation. And when it's applied properly, it'll change your life. And when it changes enough lives, it'll change the world. And that's what BNI is doing, is changing the way the world does business. Jennie, thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. I really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you for being here. I love getting to share this because I know how networking really impacts people's businesses for the better. So, and of course, to the What You Need to Grow community, stay tuned, and because you never know what you'll find out in order to grow.
Thank you for listening to What You Need to Grow. Be sure to follow the show on your favorite podcast platform or subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss a single episode. Want updates straight to your inbox? Sign up at whatyouneedtogrow.com and you'll get notified each time a new episode goes live. Here's to your growth. This has been What You Need to Grow with Jennie Bellinger.